Today, we're diving headfirst into an absolutely fantastic lit RPG narrative called Reborn: The Second Path of Coel. We are going to unpack a really profound tale of brutal betrayal, some totally intricate system mechanics, and a meticulously calculated time regression. Seriously, if you love dissecting how characters use deep structural knowledge to completely rewrite their destinies, you are in the exact right place. Let's get into it.
I want you to really think about this for a second. What would you do if the people you trusted most ended your life, and then, inexplicably, you woke up exactly 5 years in the past? Just imagine having the absolute hindsight of your own catastrophic failures, and then being handed the perfect opportunity to completely weaponize that knowledge against everything standing in your way. Well, that right there is the core premise of our protagonist, Kale's journey.
But to really understand Kale's rebirth, we have to start at his bitter end. The story sets a super grim scene right from the jump. It's a muddy battlefield, smelling of iron and smoke. Kale is completely exhausted, practically dragging his sword through the dirt. Victory should have been his, right? But instead, he's surrounded. His closest brother in arms, a guy named Eric, steps forward and delivers this chilling justification. He says, "You've become too powerful. The council fears you." And just like that, every single ally turns on him, and Eric drives a sword straight through Kale's heart. Now, the transition in Call's timeline right after that is totally jarring. One moment, absolute darkness is swallowing him whole. The very next second, air is rushing into his lungs like fire. He completely expects to be dead, but instead, he finds himself sitting in his old, simple room. There are no scars, no wounds, nothing. He looks in the mirror and realizes, against all odds, he has leaped exactly 5 years backward. It is literally the ultimate do-over. And this marks the beginning of an incredibly grand journey. As you'll see, Kale moves from the literal ashes of his fall all the way to his eventual rise as a legend. He's no longer just some celebrated warrior fighting for someone else. He is a man forging a brand new destiny from the ground up, utilizing an unseen advantage that literally nobody else in the world possesses. So, what do you think his immediate reaction to this miraculous survival is? Well, it's definitely not joy. It's actually a chilling vow. As he stares into that mirror, processing the memories of every battle and every single mistake that got him killed, his eyes burn with this quiet fury. He makes a silent promise to himself. This time, I won't trust anyone. And that hidden resolve, that becomes the absolute, unbreakable foundation for his entire second life. It's a night and day difference. The Cal of the past was loud, overly trusting, and ultimately just a pawn of the council. The reborn Cal changes overnight. He becomes cold, silent, hyper-observant. While all the other guys are joking around at the training grounds, he is training entirely alone, just relentlessly pushing himself. At one point, a classmate actually warns him that he'll burn out at this rate. And Cal? He just thinks to himself, I burned once already. He knows exactly what the future holds, and he fully intends to bend it to his will. This brings us to his first major tactical move. Kale immediately uses his future knowledge to venture deep into the forest beyond the academy to locate an ancient, completely forgotten ruin. You see, in his past life, he found this place way too late for it to make a real difference. But now, he arrives early. He steps into the dust and silence, and sitting right there at the center, he finds a broken stone altar. The moment he touches that altar, something incredible happens. A literal voice echoes in his mind, confirming him as a rebirth candidate and initializing a mysterious system known as the Path of Ascension. Light floods his vision, and this wild energy surges right through him. This magical interface fundamentally changes Kale's baseline abilities. It sharpens his senses, strengthens his body, and proves to him that his return to the past wasn't just a random stroke of luck. It's a whole new ballgame. So, armed with this, he applies his new power through a highly calculated blueprint for survival. And honestly, it's intensely satisfying to watch the strategy unfold. Step 1. He completely avoids Eric and the council, the exact trap that killed him before. Step 2. He built up his money, skills, and influence in absolute silence. And Step 3. He intercepts known future threats before they even materialize. Every single step is perfectly calculated. Even when Eric casually greets him in the city one day, Khalil just smiles politely, knowing exactly who he is really talking to. His new strategy is really put to the test during a supply convoy mission, a mission that, by the way, Kale barely survived in his past life. Just like before, the convoy is targeted by bandits, but this time, Kale anticipates the attack flawlessly. He calmly calls out the incoming ambush and moves before anyone else can even react. He's fast, precise, and completely deadly. Within mere minutes, the entire bandit group is dismantled. The captain of the convoy is left absolutely stunned by this. He looks at Kale and asks, "How did you know?" And Kale, calmly wiping his blade, delivers this wonderfully cold punchline. He just looks at him and says, "Experience." It's such a brilliant moment because he's attributing his impossible futuristic foresight to the captain without ever actually revealing his time regression. It's just perfectly played. And the system totally rewards this kind of progress. Because of his actions, Kale unlocks an evolved skill called combat prediction. This is huge. It allows him to actually read enemy movements before they happen. Fights become drastically easier. Opponents literally seem to be moving in slow motion. Kale realizes right then and there that he is already vastly surpassing the man he was at the very end of his previous timeline. But here's the catch. The system in this story acts almost like a secondary character, and it soon delivers a pretty ominous message. It tells him, warning, greater power attracts greater threats. Now, how does Kale react to these escalating stakes? He doesn't flinch. He simply smirks and says, good. He is absolutely no longer afraid of the board. He is welcoming the challenge to break the game entirely. All of this builds incredible dramatic pacing toward the fateful day, the exact moment his first life ended. We're talking the exact same battlefield, the exact same setup, the same looming betrayal. Eric steps forward to deliver the exact same rehearsed speech about Kyle being too dangerous. But this time, Kale interrupts him. Calmly and with total confidence, Kale draws his sword and just says, "I've seen this before." Talk about a mic drop moment, right? He completely flips the script, turning the council's grand ambush into a stage for his own absolute dominance. And for the very first time, you see actual fear and uncertainty creeping into the eyes of his betrayers. The outcome is a total 180-degree reversal. Kyle stands victorious. His enemies are utterly defeated, and Eric is left kneeling and bleeding in the mud. Kyle explicitly tells Eric that he was never actually stronger. The only reason he won the first time was because he caught Kyle off guard. And then, Kyle makes his most crucial choice of the whole story. He walks away. He realizes he doesn't need petty revenge anymore. He already has the one thing he truly wanted all along: control. Fast forward a few years later, and we see that Kale's meticulous planning has completely paid off. He has risen beyond his wildest dreams. He's not just a survivor, he's a leader, a sheer force of nature, a true legend in this world. There's this striking image of him standing all alone on a mountain, looking out at the horizon, and it perfectly captures a man who is absolutely no longer a pawn, but the undisputed master of his own fate. But just as Kel is acknowledging that the world is still a very dangerous place, the system drops one final, thrilling prompt on him. Final path unlocked, world ascension. Oh man, this brilliantly illustrates to Kel, and to us as the audience, that rewriting his personal fate, that was literally just the tutorial. It was only the beginning of a much larger, universal game. And that leaves us with a truly thought-provoking concept to close on. Think about it. If you had Kel's system, if you could somehow rewrite your own history with the benefit of 5 years of hard-earned experience, where would your path take you? It's an incredible thought experiment, isn't it? Well, thank you so much for joining me in this explainer today, and keep exploring those fascinating systems. Let's jump right into this. Welcome to this explainer, everyone. Today, we're going to break down an absolutely gripping survival story called Reborn, the Girl Who Remembered the End. And let me tell you, this is a narrative where the end of the world isn't actually the final chapter. It's literally just the beginning of a massive, reality-bending fight for survival. We're going to map out exactly how our protagonist goes from being a completely helpless victim to a deeply empowered warrior, and what it really takes to rewrite a coming apocalypse. So seriously, think about this for a second. What would you do if you were the only person on Earth who remembered the apocalypse? Just imagine holding on to this terrifying, visceral memory of entire buildings being erased and the skies shattering above you while everyone else around you is just living their normal, everyday lives, completely oblivious to the doom heading straight for them. It is a staggering amount of emotional weight. And those are the incredibly high stakes we're dealing with as we jump into Lena's story. We're starting right in the absolute thick of the chaos. The sky wasn't supposed to sound like shattering glass, right? But that is exactly what Lena hears. The heavens literally split wide open, carving this jagged, pulsing wound right into the world. People are screaming, cars are crashing everywhere, and then these fragments start falling. But they aren't meteors. They are alive, burning with a color that just does not belong in our reality. When they hit a building, the building doesn't just collapse. It's completely erased from existence. The pace here is frantic. It's chaotic. The world is ending, and all Lena can do is run.
But you can't run forever when reality itself is dissolving around you. From one of these glowing rifts, a creature drops right into the street. Its body twists and stretches in impossible ways, but honestly, the most terrifying part isn't its shape. It's the fact that it smiles at her. It lunges, and then, before the pain can even register, a blinding light just swallows everything. The ground vanishes, the noise stops, and Lena is left with absolutely nothing. No sound, no fear, no body, just an empty, terrifying void. In that absolute crushing silence, stripped of everything that makes her human, there's just one thing left. Floating in the dark, experiencing the profound, unimaginable desperation of total erasure, Lena holds on to this solitary, desperate spark of consciousness. She thinks, I don't want this to be the end. Please, let me try again. And I gotta say, this right here, this is the emotional heartbeat of the entire story. Her death isn't a final punctuation mark. It transforms into this desperate, powerful plea for a second chance. She doesn't even ask to be saved. She just asks for the chance to fight. And then bam, the psychological whiplash hits her like a freight train. Lena's eyes snap open. She's in her bed. Sunlight is streaming through the window. Birds are singing outside. The date on her phone confirms the impossible. She has woken up exactly 3 years before the sky breaks. She goes straight from the terrifying heat of the apocalypse to a perfectly peaceful morning, but she has a literal ticking clock counting down in her head to the inevitable end of the world. So what's the very first thing you do? You try to warn people, right? Obviously. But Lena quickly discovers the absolute agony of the Cassandra curse, being given this terrible world-ending knowledge of the future, but being completely unable to convince anyone it's actually real. Her parents just smile gently at her. Her teacher dismisses it as a bad nightmare. Her friends, they literally tell her she's spending way too much time online. Everyone she so desperately wants to save completely dismisses her warnings. The isolation she feels here is just crushing. So you see the innocence just completely drained from her. It's replaced by this cold, hard resolve. She realizes pretty quickly that nobody is coming to the rescue. If she spends her time trying to convince the world will die. So she makes the heaviest choice a person can possibly make. She decides to stop talking and to carry the burden of saving humanity entirely on her own shoulders. But eventually, all that quiet preparation meets harsh reality. Lena knows exactly where it all begins. This quiet, seemingly unimportant little park. She goes there, she waits, and right on schedule, the air bends. It twists and splits open into a glowing crack, humming with that exact same unnatural sound from her nightmare. The real fight is finally here. She reaches out and she touches the rift. The exact second she touches it, boom, the world explodes into light and this inhuman calm voice echoes directly in her mind. Anomaly detected, user identified survivor of terminated timeline. And suddenly, glowing symbols and data screens just appear right before her eyes. This is where the story shifts gears in the best possible way, bringing in these incredible lit RPG progression mechanics. She isn't just a traumatized girl with a memory anymore, she's been plugged into something cosmic. Now, what is absolutely fascinating about this world correction protocol is that it isn't just some vague magic. It's a tangible, objective-based system. The universe basically recognizes that her timeline was terminated, destroyed, and it is giving her, the sole survivor, the actual tools to prevent a global collapse. It grants her real, measurable power. It takes her paralyzing fear of the end of the world and channels it into actionable determination. It's a total game changer. And this new power, it completely rewrites the outcome. I mean, out of that first crack crawls the exact same smiling nightmare creature that erased her. In her first life, she was frozen in fear and instantly killed. But now, an instinctive barrier forms. She actually stops the attack. She gathers energy in her hand, fires it forward, and just completely shatters the monster. She took her trauma, faced it head-on, and rewrote the event. So over the next few weeks, she is grinding, training every single day. She gets stronger, she's closing every crack that appears, essentially fighting a war by night and living a normal high school life by day. But then, standing on a rooftop looking out over the city one evening, the system delivers this absolutely devastating message: event progression unchanged.
despite all her relentless training, despite all her solitary victories. It's a heavy, brutal realization. She is just one person, and she isn't fast enough to stop the apocalypse alone. But right when that utter despair starts sinking its claws back into her, a voice just speaks up from behind her. Then stop trying to do it alone. She turns around, and there's a boy standing there, calmly watching the cracks in the sky. She asks who he is, and when she looks into his eyes, she sees the exact same haunting memory and pain that she carries. He says simply, "I died too. The world ended once." It is such an incredibly hopeful twist. For the very first time since she woke up 3 years in the past, Lena isn't doing this alone. She actually has a true ally who understands exactly what is at stake. Together, they look up at the cracks forming in the sky. With someone finally standing by her side, armed with this cosmic system and a shared memory of the end, the story definitely won't end the same way this time.
Which, really brings this whole thing right back to you. We've seen Lena's incredible journey from an isolated survivor to an empowered protector. But just think about the sheer emotional weight she carries and the impossible choices she has to make moving forward. I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder today. If you woke up tomorrow carrying the memories of the end of the world and you finally found the power to stop it, who would you save first?